Mamdani has said the end goal is seizing the means of production. I think they want to seize the means of production. Now, maybe you missed that in school or missed school altogether, but that's communism.
Mamdani keeps dressing these ideas up as bold, modern progress, yet Maher strips away the branding in seconds. When a politician openly talks about seizing the means of production, that is not affordable housing policy, and it is not Scandinavian-style reform, it is the language of communism. Maher's repetition is what makes the moment land so hard. He acts almost confused, as if Mamdani has not already said the quiet part out loud. Then comes the knockout line, maybe you missed it in school, or missed school altogether. That is classic Maher. One joke, one historical reference, and suddenly the entire political disguise falls apart. That brutal punchline did not come out of nowhere. Earlier in the monologue, Maher explained exactly why Mamdani and the DSA have made him question his automatic support for the Democratic Party.
Trump has told 1 trillion lies, but when he says the Democratic Socialists of America are actually communist, that's not one of them. And it's not hard to prove it, just by quoting the DSA and their candidates. It gives me no pleasure to have to do this. I'd much rather keep going the good vibes from my summer vacation. I had an awesome one, by the way. I totally got a girlfriend at Bible camp. However, right before we left, Vice President J.D. Vance was on the show, and I told him that if the Democratic Party keeps going in the direction of the DSA, my vote was in play. And all I heard all vacation was, oh my God, you're a Republican now. No, that's not what I said. I said in play. And here's why. Because not a week goes by where I don't read about some newly chosen, exciting new face in the Democratic Party. And then when that face opens its mouth, the Communist Manifesto or some other crazy shit comes out. Again, let's just read the quotes. The DSA platform says you work as much as you are able and no more than needed. If that was any closer to Karl Marx's dictum from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs, they'd be sued for plagiarism.
Maher's not saying he suddenly became a Republican. He is saying the Democratic Party is making it harder for voters like him to stay loyal. Every time the party promotes another exciting new face, Maher hears the same radical language hiding behind the polished campaign branding. His joke about the Communist Manifesto is funny because the candidates barely seem interested in hiding the ideology anymore. And once the DSA starts borrowing language that sounds almost identical to Karl Marx, Maher's argument becomes brutally simple. This is not Republicans inventing another scare tactic. The movement is describing itself in its own words. And Maher was only getting started. Once he moved beyond the DSA's official language, the names surrounding Mamdani began saying the quiet part out loud: property seizures, Marxist slogans, and an ideology they no longer seemed interested in disguising.
To leave any doubt, New York Mayor Mamdani once tweeted Karl Marx's words exactly. They're not trying to hide it. Their most popular influencer, Hassan Piker, thinks communism is so groovy. He laments the fall of the two of the most murderous regimes in history, the Soviet Union and Chairman Mao's China. Mamdani's aide, his top aide, Sia Weaver, said, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property, it's over, and impoverish the white middle class. What? That's a goal? You know you're supposed to scare people into voting for you, right? One of the new soon-to-be Democratic Congresspeople, Darlisia Chevalier, supports seizing all properties from landlords and said, seize the means of production.
At this point, Maher is no longer arguing over labels. The people around Mamdani are supplying the evidence themselves. One influencer romanticizes communist regimes. A top aide talks about the government's right to seize property, and another candidate openly calls for taking homes from landlords. Then the same phrase keeps returning: seize the means of production. Maher's sarcasm works because none of this sounds accidental or misunderstood. These are not vague slogans about fairness. They are explicit demands for state control. wrapped in fashionable progressive language. The more Mamdani's political circle speaks, the harder it becomes to dismiss the communist comparison as nothing more than Republican fear-mongering. Maher had already shown that Mamdani's political circle was speaking the language of communism. Now he turned to the organization behind them and found that its most radical faction was no longer hiding the destination.
Parties can change sometimes, you know. You have to keep up. Who freed the slaves? Republicans, Lincoln. Democrats were the racist party back then, but then JFK got elected and it switched. The DSA itself has switched, even 5 years ago. It shunned communists. That changed. Things change. Now the coalition within the DSA, called the Marxist Unity Group, is in ascendance, and I must take them at their word when their words include, our commitment is to the long-term struggle for a fully liberated, classless society, in a word, communism. What do they have to do? Tweet out, elect more communists? Oh yeah, Sia Weaver did that. Yes. Good, I'm glad you're shocked. People got to realize this is going on.
Maher's argument now moves beyond a few reckless quotes and becomes an indictment of the entire movement. The DSA once tried to keep open communists at a distance. Now, its rising Marxist faction proudly describes the destination as a classless communist society. That is why Maher's "elect more communists" joke lands so perfectly. He asks what more proof anyone could possibly need, only to discover they have already tweeted the answer themselves. His warning about the Democratic Party being colonized is equally brutal. The problem is no longer that a handful of radicals exist on the fringe. It is that party leaders seem too frightened to confront them, allowing their language, priorities, and hostility toward America's institutions to move steadily toward the center. And Maher's warning becomes even more damaging when he turns from the radicals making these demands to the Democratic leaders who refuse to draw a line against them. When members of the party were given the simplest possible chance to defend capitalism, public safety, and pride in America, the response was almost complete silence.
Yes, my vote is in play. I'm not voting for anyone who thinks the wrong side won the Cold War or cheers for the Intifada like it's the World Cup. It's so ironic from the people who obsess about colonization. You know what's being colonized now? The Democratic Party. Last month, 2 Democratic congressmen released an open pledge they wanted their fellow Democratic members to sign. It said, "We are capitalist, not socialist. We want safety, not lawlessness. We are proud, not ashamed of America." These should not be hard words for a congressional Democrat to sign on to. You know how many did? 8. 8 out of 212. Guys, really, there's got to be an easier way to lose the swing states.
This is where Maher turns the argument from political comedy into a warning about the Democratic Party's survival. Asking elected Democrats to support capitalism, public safety, and pride in America should have been the easiest pledge imaginable, yet only 8 signed it. That silence is exactly what allows the most radical voices to define the entire party. Maher is careful to admit that most Democrats do not openly support abolishing police, prisons, or borders, but his point is that almost nobody with power is willing to confront those ideas either. And when activists explicitly say they want to abolish the border, Maher refuses to accept the media's softer translation. His message is brutally simple. Stop pretending these positions are being misunderstood when the people promoting them are saying exactly what they believe. And Maher is not finished exposing how far these ideas go. Once the movement moves beyond abolishing borders and policing, it begins targeting the constitutional structure itself, while the party establishment continues pretending this is just harmless progressive activism.
No, this nonsense is not where most Democratic politicians are right now, but it's also becoming a raging fire festival in the party that neither is anyone putting out. People are actually getting elected now who literally don't think we should have police or prisons or borders. And again, they're not lying about who they are. The media is. Ask Ms. Chevalier about the border. She says, yes, literally abolish the border. You know, if you call a woman a whore and everyone gasps, and then the woman says, oh, no, he's right, I'm literally a prostitute. Believe her. This crowd literally wants to get rid of our form of government, the Senate, but also, and I quote, replace the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress. Yeah, no biggie. Just taking the very essence of our government, which is 3 branches checking each other and shit-canning 2.5 of them. Who could be this nuts? I'll tell you who. Morons who are still wearing COVID masks in 2026.
At this point, Maher argues that the movement is no longer demanding a few radical policy changes, it is challenging the constitutional system itself. Replacing an independent presidency and Supreme Court with institutions subordinate to Congress would destroy the checks and balances at the heart of American government. Maher then turns his fire on the affluent activists promoting these ideas, mocking them as privileged idealists whose slogans have never been tested against reality. The prison abolition argument gives him the clearest example. A world without prisons may sound compassionate in theory, but Maher immediately points to the people missing from that fantasy, the victims. His message is ruthless but simple. Recognizing the humanity of offenders cannot mean ignoring the safety and humanity of everyone else. From there, Maher shifts the blame from the activists selling these ideas to the Democratic leaders deciding whether to tolerate them. James Carville wants a clear line drawn, while Gavin Newsom keeps defending the party as a big tent, and Maher is about to explain why unlimited inclusion can turn a political coalition into a circus.
Photo is from the DSA meeting in Denver 3 weeks ago. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Since the far left, the far, far left, is overwhelmingly made up of affluent, ultra-woke white people, you raised your kids wrong. You told your precious brats that every brain fart was genius, and now those brain farts are becoming Democratic Party policy. Francesca Hong, yet another major Democratic candidate who's all in on abolishing the police, and is running for governor of Wisconsin, says, I think that my perfect world would be a world without prisons, because we all see the humanity in one another, and then we know nobody's disposable. Well, murder victims are. I mean, if you heard this kind of nonsense coming out of the mouth of a teenage beauty queen, it would be an eye roll.
Maher's real warning is not that every Democrat has suddenly become a communist. It is that the party's loudest radicals are saying exactly what they believe, seizing property, abolishing borders, eliminating prisons, and rewriting the constitutional system, while too many Democratic leaders refuse to draw a clear line. Mamdani may be the most visible face of that movement, yet the deeper problem is a party establishment that keeps treating political extremism as harmless enthusiasm. Maher is not asking Democrats to become Republicans. He is asking them to defend capitalism, public safety, constitutional checks and balances, and the basic idea that America is still worth protecting. Because when only 8 members can sign a pledge that simple, the greatest threat may not be the radicals shouting from the fringe, it may be the silence coming from everyone else. And until Democrats confront that silence, voters like Maher will keep wondering whether the party still deserves their loyalty.